Now, a violent environment is hardly the place for a child or anyone to grow up in. It's enough to make anyone ask if God truly exists. Mandi Els did, and she wrote about this painful chapter in her life and her search for her purpose in life. Now, she's compiled her story in an autobiography called Mandi's Story. And with us this morning, I have to say, is author, speaker, and definitely beautiful woman, Mandi Els. Good morning, Mandi.
Good morning.
Now, thank you for coming over.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so last night you launched the story of your life, your autobiography, Mandi's Story. Now, tell me first, you were born in South Africa, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so sort of
What
born...
was it like growing up?
You know, I was sort of growing up in a time when I think sort of political turmoil was sort of simmering in the background. So it was just it was still very much apartheid, and it was very much, I would say, cloaked with violence.
Yes.
So pretty much what was in the political situation spilled over into the walls of our home.
Okay. All right. And what happened in your home?
I grew up with a father who was gripped by the claws of alcoholism very early on in his life.
Okay.
So he was an abusive alcoholic. And then my mother, who ended up being our constant shield, ended up being worn down to the extent that she became a closet alcoholic.
Okay.
So I grew up with two parents basically being enslaved in an alcoholic jail cell.
Now, how many were you in the family?
I was the middle child. I had a younger sister and I had an older brother, so it was the three of us.
Okay, did you come from a poor family?
You know, when you have alcoholism in the family, you normally are poor because pretty much all the money would go sort of towards providing liquor. So we would sort of buy liquor first, and then there would be money later on only to buy food and things. So yes, we were cloaked in poverty pretty much most of my life.
Now, how bad is it to live with alcoholic parents? What is it like?
You know, it's so hard. I think if you live in a home like that, you think it's normal because you're not exposed to anything else.
Yes.
So I think you have two personas. You have the persona that you show to the world when you go out to school and you meet people in public, and then you have like this dark secret in the chambers of your home that you just don't reveal to anybody.
Yeah.
I think the thing that trademarks something like that the most is fear. You grow up feeling afraid all the time, fear of triggering anything that will cause an outburst, fear of who you are, fear of having friends, and just fear in general.
Now, what would be the difference of a heavy drinker to an alcoholic?
No, I
I read a book on Alcoholics Anonymous. Actually, I was seeing someone when I was younger who turned out to be an alcoholic, and I was surprised. But there were specific elements, descriptions on what described an alcoholic.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, and our home, alcoholism was sort of resembled in the fact that my parents just couldn't go without it. So they had to have it constantly.
Yes. So you wake up in the morning, you need alcohol right away. Okay,
yes.
that's one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, most people have a different reaction to alcohol. Some people have alcohol and they become really very loving, very promiscuous, very sort of
happy. Yeah, they touch too much.
Yes, you know. And then you get some people that unfortunately when they do take alcohol in, they have this aggression and this anger and this rage that just sort of erupts in a volcano.
Yes, it comes out. Because alcohol takes your inhibitions out.
Completely.
Yes, okay.
Completely.
So your father was like that. That was the effect.
That was the effect. And though, which is strange because the irony was when he wasn't drinking, he was a very kind, a very gentle man.
Oh my.
So that is the worst. You have this loving father who can hold you in a tender embrace 1 minute, and then once he has the alcohol inside of him, he's sort of transformed into a daunting being.
And what would he do, Mandi? I hope you don't mind. I mean, I'm sure it's in your book.
Yes.
When your father would be drunk, how bad would it get?
Well, it would get pretty bad. I think one of the scenes that I describe in the book, which was quite traumatic, was at my sister's birthday party. She was 9 years old, and we were having a party with all the friends, and we were ready to cut the cake, and we were blowing the candles. And my mom disappeared, so I thought she went to go get some more candles for the birthday cake. And the next minute, she's coming from the bedroom, and she's gone to get my father's handgun. And in front of all the children, and in front of everybody at the party, she raises the handgun, points it straight into my father's face.
Oh my God.
And she pulls the trigger. The gun was not loaded. So my dad sort of smashes it to the ground, takes a wine glass that's standing on the edge of the table, shatters against the table, and he starts slashing my mom across the face, the arms, and it's just blood everywhere. And I just fainted. Everything just got dark around me, and the next minute you just have screaming children, horrified, running through the house, some of them even into the street, parents coming, collecting their children, flabbergasted, horrified. You have police incarcerating my father, neighbors looking on, and my mom is being shifted off to the ER unit. And I just remembered me and my sister were sitting there, and I remembered my first question was to God. I was like, where were you? Why would you allow this? And I remember we had this pale gray carpet, and there was just blood everywhere, and me and my sister were desperately trying to sort of get the stains out of the carpet. And when I got the smell of the lukewarm soap water mixed with the blood of my mother, something inside of me just died on that carpet. So those are the kind of events that we had happen often violence that will invoke the presence of the police, and that will also invoke my father being incarcerated, my mom being shifted off to the emergency room, and that would also reverse. As my mom became an alcoholic, she would inflict harm on my father, and I ended up having to go to ER where he had wounds that we had to have him stitched up for. So it was pretty normal, or seeing him being chained to the back of a police van and taken to jail often.
So when he went to jail after that incident, did he come back out again?
Yes, because my mother wouldn't press charges, because this is the problem. If you're a victim like that, you live in fear constantly. So she would not legally take any charge against my father. I remember that one time that I begged her, I said, Mom, just get a divorce, just leave him, just get away from this cycle that is so destructive. And she did. She threatened him with divorce, and he tried to commit suicide. He tried to gas himself to death.
Oh my.
And what happened was, without me knowing at the time, my father approached her and he said, if you ever try to desert your role as wife in the family or the home, I will kill you, and I will kill every single member of the family, and then I'll kill myself. So I, of course, didn't know this. So I just thought, I saw a weak woman that's not willing to stand up and fight for her children. But only now that I'm a mother of my own, I realized the strength and the courage it took for her to shield us from that. And it took me, it was a long time before I even knew of that. So she felt that she was protecting us by staying and just being the sacrificial lamb in our family.
My gosh, this is too early to cry. Way too early in the morning. Now, but what was it like growing up? Did you become an alcoholic, if you don't mind? Did you get into drugs?
Later on, I did. Later on, I realized that there was, I found for me, if you grow up in a home like that and there's no solid foundation, you look for significance everywhere else. So you weren't getting it from your mother, you weren't getting it from your father. So pretty much the world promised it. So alcohol was definitely a way for me to become a different person, to forget about the brokenness. So I definitely had a nice, I would say I had a very intimate relationship with alcohol. And it was only after I found my faith that I felt God speak to me about it and telling me that for me, with my family history, being an alcohol, just having any kind of alcohol is like giving the enemy a loaded gun and helping him squeeze the trigger. So for me, in my case, total abstinence is what was required.
Okay.
And the cycle's been broken. I don't drink.
What was the moment that you found the Lord?
Oh my goodness. It was, I wish it was like an easy, I surrendered, yes and amen story, but it wasn't. I pretty much had this struggle throughout my whole life. Where is he? And if he's really all-powerful, and if he has all this grace that the Bible teaches or that the preacher teaches from the pulpit, where is it in my home? Where is it in my family? And I wanted to know if God is really real, you need to come and talk to me personally. If he can speak to Moses face to face, if he can knock Paul off a donkey on the Damascus road, I want to have a burning bush of my own. And I pretty much just got to the stage where my life became complete ruins. I have suffered a divorce because this is my ticket out. When you're in an abusive home, you always look for a way out. My first hope was education. I was going to become a lawyer, and